What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. Welcome to Comic Book Conservators, episode 54. What's up? I'm happy. I guess we should say happy Easter, happy Passover, happy vernal equinox to everybody. Yeah? How have you been?
Good. How you guys been? We missed you last week.
I was in Big Bend, bro.
Oh, you got the T-shirt.
I was completely off grid. No, unless you got
We
a satellite
noticed that.
phone. Yeah, unless you got a satellite phone.
We went looking for you. It's like we can't get the show going without you.
Yeah.
I thought
I'd given you all the tools you needed. Clearly, I didn't. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
We got it was all set up and ready for y'all to go. Oh wow, Collecting Chaos. Thank you so much. Says
thank you.
And sends us a super chat. Next episode is on Collecting Chaos. Thank you so much. Very generous of you. Yeah, I had a great time. We stayed in the park. We stayed in Terlingua one night. I saw 20 lifeless birds for myself, including the highlight was a gray hawk. For those of you that don't know, they were extirpated from the U.S. back in the 70s. When I was a kid, they literally were extinct in the U.S. Due to conservation efforts, they've been brought back. They're estimated about 100 breeding pairs left. And I was fortunate enough to see them several times and get some great pictures. And I was super thrilled with that. And yeah, that was the highlight. But I've been there before. The park changes more season to season than it does year to year. It's a bit of a time capsule, and it's so dry down there that, you know, if there was a rusty license plate on the side of the road, it's the same now as it was 40 years ago, because it's just so dry and hot. So anyway, I had a great time. Sorry, I wasn't here last week. I hope you all had fun anyway. And
we had fun without you.
Yeah, we have an exciting show today, relatively on the short side, so people can get back to their families. And yeah, why don't we say hi, and we'll go around the horn real quick and tell us about your week and what's going on. Phil, why don't we start with you? How you doing, man?
Oh man, just real quick. Thanks, Salesboy. Keep it moist.
Yeah, Salesboy Comics. Check his channel out if you're not already. Please.
And for those who want to hear it twice, moist, you know, this is music to some people. Hey, I'm doing great. Nice kind of relaxing Sunday. As always, drowning in comics. And as always, coming live from the border of Brooklyn and Queens here in New York City. And you can find me on Instagram at Phantom Restoration for the time being, and at this website, www.phantomrestoration.com. And I'm happy to be here with both you guys tonight.
Awesome. Yeah. Great to see you, my man. Larry.
Well,
you're not in California.
No, you're not.
I am not in California. I am currently in Kowloon, just outside of Hong Kong. And I will be having to, unfortunately, leave the show a little bit early today because I have to go put on my my pilot costume, as my mom likes to call it, and fly back to the United States. So I'll be spending time with you guys for a little bit longer, but then I'm going to have to leave during this show.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, we'll enjoy you while we're here. Speaking of super chats, let's say real quick, this episode is brought to you ad-free by, I thought I put it in the comments here. There we go. Jason Adrift. Check out his channel, Archivist Adrift, Don Carter, and the aforementioned Salesboy Comics. Thank you all. Let them know how much you appreciate watching this ad-free on this Easter Sunday. And I think I wanted to say one other thing. Oh, yeah, I kind of did.
There's the professor.
I kind of did want to say one other thing. You know, I hope that everybody has some financial security. I haven't been trading very much comics recently. I've been trading more options contracts than comic books. Phil saying he was drowning in comics triggered me on this. Yeah. I heard somebody say the other day that they checked their 401k and it was now a
Ooh,
now a 301k.
yeah, do not look at your 401k right now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like I said,
it's all
I
paper money.
de-risked my portfolio back in February, and I hope everybody is financially secure. I'll say that. It's we're here talking about our hobby and about how much we enjoy it. I'm very grateful for being able to enjoy the hobby. But you got to take care of the bills first. You got to make sure you got a roof over your head and food, and take care of your family and your loved ones. And so I hope everybody is not too stressed out in this environment. And I hope that they can, that they're financially secure and can continue to enjoy our favorite hobby. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Just take a deep breath right now, people.
Yeah, if you're fully invested, that's for darn sure. Let's say hi's to everybody. I got Hugo Danner. Hey, Mike, what's up? By the way, buddy, I got a few things coming to you. Something for your cat and something for you. It might rhyme with Ram. Robbie Josephs, what's up? Says, hi, everyone. How long does it take to become a proficient conservator? I'll let you know when I get there, Robbie.
I'll let you know. Yeah, that's my answer. I'll let you know.
All jokes aside, I think it depends a lot on your disposition. Do you have a background? Have you worked with your hands? Do you have a lot of patience?
Do you have time?
Do you have time? You can't rush this hobby. I honestly think if you already have a lot of those skills in your tool set, you can start doing the more entry level conservator type stuff immediately. I've said before, I'm not a gatekeeper. I think everybody should practice. I just recommend starting with some lower value books and practicing. And you'll find out really quickly whether or not you have the aptitude for this hobby. Hey, Silver Spidey, welcome. Rick Nestor, what's up, brother? Kaiten Lewib, hello, how are you? The professor's here. How you doing, Peter? Love to see you here. Vulu is one of our regulars. Welcome. As is Morris Devereaux. Welcome. Ben Stewart, the aforementioned Archivist Adrift, Jason, Travis Moriarty. Welcome. Salesboy Comics, we've already mentioned. I was extinct in the U.S. I think that he means he wasn't born yet in the 1970s. Rick says, won't be here next week. I'll be at Calgary Comic-Con. Oh, have a lot of fun. Hopefully, again, you've got some dry powder and you can find some great deals.
I hope so.
You'll
Comic-Cons they're making a turn.
Yeah. You'll have to excuse Larry and I. We have one eye on Heritage Live. I do have one book that I am trying to potentially get a good deal on. So cross fingers, everybody.
It's getting close.
Thank you. I will I'll just take a quick timeout when my book comes up.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of Comic-Cons, it's interesting. I went to one for the first time in probably 20 years or 30 years even. Wow. They're changed quite a bit. The prices are really high because they put them in these big halls and the dealers are having to basically share the cost of the halls. So the prices are really high. And I would say of all the things that I saw, maybe 1 in 30 booths was a comic dealer. And the rest of it was furries or cosplay or something like that. And it was really not an enjoyable experience. I would love to go to CES, but that wasn't in the cards for me. So
I stopped going to traditional cons a while back, years ago, for those reasons. There's not enough comics there, and the comics that are there, I didn't find.
If you find the smaller cons are okay. Sure. The big ones, the mega cons, just no.
They can be good to network at, and there's oftentimes a lot of like prearranged deals that are going on and stuff like that. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to get out of it. But Larry, you're totally right. Like the
Yeah.
dealers are almost kind of forced to not really give away stuff. But there is that one caveat where if it's like a 3-day con, that third day dealers are much more willing to negotiate on books because anything they don't have to pack up and take with them is
Sure.
so-
Exactly. They'd like to get rid of,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was kind of disappointed. There was like not really any deals to be had because it was just so overpriced.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's why we love Collector Summit. I'm actually committed to going to HeroCon, so I'm kind of
Oh.
looking forward to that. I heard
Okay.
that's one of the last old school cons. We'll find out. The list of creators there is incredible. So
When is
Where
that
where
again?
where and
It's
when?
in Charlottesville, right?
just Charlotte. Yeah,
Oh,
Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's continue our roundup here. Let's see. Pluck My Last Nerve is here. Welcome. Hugo says he saw a red-tailed hawk in the yards. Awesome. Love red-tailed hawks. Let's see. Ben Stewart says, I'm excited. Welcome, Ben. I'm excited about bald eagles and fisher cats moving back into my area. Apex predators are a good sign for a healthy ecosystem. Totally awesome. When I was a kid, you couldn't see a bald eagle. They were just, unless you were in Alaska. And now, I think pretty much all 50 states, any time of year, if you're committed, you can go out and find one. It's pretty cool. Conservation does work.
Yeah, I've got them up at my cabin in Northern California. We've got golden eagles and bald eagles, which is really nice to see.
Golden
Yeah, we
eagles.
see bald
we were
eagles
on the
quite
lookout.
often.
We were actually on the lookout for golden eagles in Big Bend. We didn't see one this time, but they're there.
So much bigger than a bald eagle.
They're big. The first time I saw one, I said, well, how do you know if it's a golden eagle? And somebody said, does it look like an airplane coming in? I said, it kind of does. And they said, that's a golden eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
It's
big.
wild.
Wingspan.
They are big, yeah. Gorilla Monkey 3000, welcome. AG, welcome. Let's see who else we have. I think, Unbothered Kitty, hello, Cat, welcome. Glad to have you in the show. Are you artistic, Salesboy says, or artists, and are you able to watch 4 hours of videos for 2 months straight? There you go. That's an answer to the question,
That's
how
part
long
of
does
it,
it
for
take to
sure.
become proficient? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we say. Collecting Cast says, I plugged your book Wednesday night on my live stream. Thank you so much for doing that. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. And Ben Stewart says, Harley Yee was on Selling Superman. Oh, yeah, the movie. Yeah, it's great. I wonder how many people saw Selling Superman?
I have not seen it.
Did you enjoy
I'm
it?
guilty.
I
No,
hung
I
out with
didn't
him a
see
lot.
it.
I don't watch a lot of TV. And I'll say this
I-
too. I'm not caught up on anybody's channel. I've been out for a week. If you did something amazing on your channel in the last 2 weeks, I missed it because I've been busy between trying to keep my 401k's head above water and my trip. I've been pretty much checked out from conservation. So, Jim, you're not at all fashionably late. You're here just in time for the A segment.
Heck yeah.
All right.
That's my wake up.
I thought that was the new music for the A segment.
No, that's Larry. Get in the shower, put on your uniform, and go to work.
Oh boy.
Well.
All right. Well,
I like this book.
let's get started. I'm not a huge fan of the timelies. People know that. Partially because I feel like they're unreadable, A, and then B, they're so expensive. And that said, the more I looked into this book, the more this book has going for it. Man,
It's got a lot going for it.
what a book, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into it. So this is a Conserve 5.0. Let's see. Again, I apologize. I'm keeping one eye on Heritage here.
Also,
So
thing, Paul.
Captain America Comics #3. So here's the stuff that I put that I thought were highlights for this book. Obviously, the cover, this insane classic Red Skull cover with bondage. It's a Schomburg. It really has, and this is, I think, why these timelies go for so much, the covers, right?
It's
It's
exactly.
not-
It's a Schomburg bondage. You can't.
And I
that-
do,
that's a-
I do acknowledge they do have great covers. You know, they have better covers than some of the DC books, which I think are much more readable and less nonsensical. But the covers are tough to beat. So this is again the Schomburg cover. It's got Simon and Kirby interior. This particular one actually also has Rayboy interior. I don't know if you guys say Rayboy or Raboy. I've been hearing others say Rayboy. I admit I don't know. He's obviously the one who's famous for the covers in Master Comics over at Fawcett eventually. Some of the classic, just really best Golden Age covers of the era. And it also happens to have Stan Lee's first paid work for Timely for his cousin, for his wife's cousin. And I'm not calling him a Nepo boy baby, but you know, he was. So this book just has so much going for it. Only 68 copies universal. You can see in total 129 copies, although a lot of signature copies of this book, and I assume they're mostly Stan Lee's.
Yeah.
Because by the time CGC was around, Rayboy, Simon, Kirby, these guys were either gone already or in their dotage. And Stan Lee was the one who was still around. Again, this being his first work ever. I'm sure a lot of those are signed copies by Stan Lee. So ordinarily when we see so few universal, it's because it's a super rare book and then we have a lot of restored and conserved. But this one actually has a very significant, like, I don't know if they ever break this down, but that signature series is going to be mostly universal. So you really can think about this book as having about 90 copies universal. Again, some of those could be restored or, you know, qualified, whatever. But in general, signature copies are mostly going to be universal. So super rare book, medium grade 5.0 is just about right for most sought after Golden Age books. They tend to hold up pretty well if they survive at all, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what's universal work? Well, this book doesn't trade hands super often. Last sale of a 5.0 universal was actually in 2020 at 23 grand. There was a previous high water mark at 30,500. However, prices have come down a little bit on this book. There was a recent 6.0, or maybe it was a 5.5 that sold around 25K. So the Go Collect algorithm places the value of a 5.0 universal at 21,000. That's the number I used for calculating fair market value of the universal. Seemed about right to me. Didn't seem like it was outlier driven. As usual, rare books, they don't trade hands all that often. And so you have to a little bit take the data, you know, for what it's worth. And they're always worth what someone will pay at the end of the day. Golden Age has been holding up pretty well, but that was before this wealth shock that we have recently experienced. So we'll see. I think we were just commenting with the Heritage Live auction ongoing right now. Looks like a few bargains to be had in this.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now for you. They're what's your lot number?
I don't want to tell anybody. I don't want to be fighting with anybody.
No, I'm teasing you. I was going to stop you.
One eye on it. Yeah,
I know. I'm watching.
But I appreciate you. Give me the heads up if I'm somehow talking through it. Really beautiful book. We talked already about this cover a little bit, but this specific copy is actually a very nice copy. We'll talk a little bit about the actual conservation here, but let's look at the notes first. 5.0 conserved, cream to off-white pages. Again, CGC notes the classic Red Skull cover, 2-page Stan Lee text story, his first work for Timely, and chip out right center of front cover. That's kind of a fairly significant chip. I'll show you a close
Oh, I
up.
see it. Yeah.
I'll show you a close up of it in a little bit.
You're getting close, Paul, just so you know.
Staples rust with stains. I'll show you a close up of that too, but I think you can see it just left of the A in America. You can see some rust there. Water stain full top of whole book. It's not very obvious on the front cover, but you can see that water stain on the back cover.
Yep, I saw that.
And then water stain entire spine. So
it really is that tide line you see. So it's so subtle. It's you only notice it if you've seen a lot of before and after pictures of covers that have been cleaned, where the stain isn't totally pulled out, but it is mostly. But you can still see that tide line that's there. So it's much better and it's conserved, but sometimes it's just, it goes to show you stains can't always completely be removed, unless maybe you want to do some color touch and then you're going into a restored book.
Jason, that doesn't sound weird at all, man. Who doesn't love women in a tube? Jason also says, anyone ever experienced color bleed on a cover wrap while applying seals? Happened to me on a Jungle Comics I'm working on right now. Thought it would happen in the bath, but didn't.
Hey, Paul,
Jungle Comics.
It's time to watch your Heritage.
Why don't you guys comment on
sure. Yeah, we
Jason's
can talk about this
question here?
Do your thing, Paul.
Got it.
Yeah. No. Has anybody experienced color bleed on a wrap while applying a seal?
Can you
happen to me?
What you're kind of going through?
Probably a tear seal, probably a wet tear seal, right?
So you're just saying directly like you're doing a tear seal. Ooh, you got a bit back then. Come on, do it. Win,
it's getting aggressive.
You've been outbid.
Oh boy! Hey, we're all here for you.
This is fun.
We're all rooting for you.
Cheerleading. Oh, tension. The tension. Jason, the more I think about this, the more I would assume if you thought that there would be some color bleed in the bath and there wasn't, it could have just been because the duration of the bath wasn't long enough to start pulling the color out. But then once you do the tear seal, the moisture from the wheat paste or methylcellulose that you're using is pulling it out because the sizing of the papers has been compromised in a way. So I would say, although, see, it's tough because my normal answer to this would be to use enough of cellulose to then resize the cover. So I wouldn't normally encounter any color bleed while doing that, but that's what you would be using to maybe mending anyway. So I'm still a little I'm not sure how this is happening.
Well, what my thought on this is if the color is coming out, the sizing is what you use to bond the ink, the color ink to the paper. And once the sizing is out, there's really no glue holding your ink to the paper, and it starts to bleed away. So that's I'm gonna have to leave you guys here shortly and get ready.
Yeah.
But that's my thought. There's just no sizing left in it, and that you're doing the tear seal on a page with no sizing. You are going to run the risk of it flowing out. So what I would do in a case like that, if it's a cover or even a wrap, is I would go ahead and do a full clean, get all the dirt out, and then do just a spot repair. Just wet the area you're going to work on and pin it down, and that way you're not going to get any tie lines because there's no dirt in the page because you've already cleaned it out from the previous bath. But that's how I would attack it.
Prior to mending too, just take 2 sheets of silicone release paper on either side, and as long as you're not really disturbing the paper, take a big brush and dip it in your methylcellulose and then kind of squeegee the side out so it's not chunky on there, and then do a bunch of strips of methylcellulose so you're just covering it. You're not introducing a ton, and then you take your tacking iron on a very low setting, and then you just keep going over the whole area, and you're introducing the the sizing back into the paper. So then you can do the mending. And I mean, part of the mending might, if it's already a lap tear, mend just by adding the methyl cellulose. But if not, then you can add your mending tissue. But you are protecting the paper then prior to anything. That's what I would. That's
Yeah.
what I think about.
I'll reinforce, but give just slightly different recommendation here. I think I've had Jungle Comics specifically bleed. The inks on there, I think, want to bleed. They'll bleed through the paper.
Yeah.
They bleed a lot on those Jungle Comics. I think what Phil's saying is spot on. You want to basically, I would just use some different terminology. You want to basically seal it before you do the mending,
exactly.
the tear mending. And I would do exactly
go with
what
that.
Phil is suggesting. Personally, I have found I water my methyl cellulose down something like 1 to 3 or 1 parts in 4, something like that. And I tried what Phil just recommended, because he recommended it to me with the tacking iron. I ran into some issues. I let mine air dry. So you might try that as well. But definitely, I think, in the way I think of it, is sealing. Seal it. After you've washed it, seal it, then do the mending. We have seen both Larry and I, with mending with either methyl cellulose or wheat paste, a slight darkening of the paper.
Yes.
That can happen. Yeah.
And if you seal it first, you don't get that. So that's my recommendation. All right.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody. I've got to actually go put on my uniform and go to work. So
Thanks, Captain. Appreciate
good checking in with you guys.
Happy
And I'll
Easter.
see you.
Happy
Thanks. I'll see
Passover.
you guys.
Happy everything.
Thanks. I'll see you next week. All right.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye.
Take it easy, Larry.
Bye.
All right. Let's see. Next slide. Look how nice this is, though. So there's that little piece out over on the A on the right. That really is the most obvious defect, and even that's not bad.
I feel like I recognize this book. I feel like I recognized it before it got the work done on it, because I swear I remember seeing one of these that had rusted both staples, and maybe it was a 4.0 Universal. I'm just taking a stab at a guess, or maybe the person's like, Phil, you're totally wrong. This has been raw in my collection. The work is just done. I don't know what I'm talking about, but
I'm not sure.
It's a nice book either way.
It's beautiful. I did not look up the history in terms of see if I could find, because this does have a couple of telltale provenance marks, right? It's got that little piece out on the right. It's got some rust on the table. It also has this penciled X in between the A and the M in America.
Looks like maybe a P too, but
either way, it could be it could be a P with the let's call it a P. I think you're right. I think it's a cursive P, a large cursive capital P.
I'm biased with that, because when I see that, I'm like, I want it to be a P.
I think the first time I saw it, I thought it was a P. It gave me a P impression, and just right now, looking at it this size, it gives me an X impression. But certainly,
I can see what you're saying too.
Yeah. So anyway, it's got some provenance marks. You may be able to find this one in some previous auction results. The bottom half of the front cover, again, just some mild rust on the staple. What a cover.
Yep.
Double bonded, girl in
two. It's kind of crazy
two.
that the rust, I feel like oftentimes when you see rust, when you know it was that severe on the staple, you see more rust migration. So this is kind of an interesting case of maybe it got wet, but for a very short duration, but still long enough to get it all rusty, but it didn't.
I think that has to be true. There's no mold. There's no bleeding of the inks in a severe way. It's actually, to me, it's one of Schomburg's more beautiful covers. If you take it all in, and this is a beautifully rendered cap. I really, like I said, people know I'm not a huge fan, but this one does it. Yeah, this one really does it. Here's the back cover. You can see that tide line there along the top, but no other defects to speak of. There is a rust spot from like where it was stacked on another book. If you look at this red arrow on the bottom arrow tine, you see a little rust. That's an impression from a staple from another book that was stacked on. And you see here, the other staple. So that was a book that was stacked like 1 inch over in terms of the spine, and a little defect on the bottom spine here. I assume this is the one that's referenced by CGC as stain the entire spine.
Yeah.
Really not bad. It's got another the house ad here, Human Torch number 3, which is really like Human Torch 2, right?
Yep.
Second issue. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Sweet book.
Absolutely.
These yellows, the I don't know. There's something so alluring. It's not even really just the timelies, because you see it more in the DCs and the Supermans and stuff. But man, the Golden Age books with yellow covers like this are just, I love them.
Yeah. This one's, like I said, great composition, great balance to it, great action. Really, to me, a highlight of a Schomburg cover. Ben Stewart says it's a P impression. Sorry for that.
Yeah, when you said that, I snickered a little bit myself.
That was a good one, right? I do that on purpose. Jason, I don't think adding the methylcellulose to the bath works quite as well. I think you want to actually coat it to seal it.
Yeah, correct.
Guesses. Throw some guesses in there, chat. What do you think of this? What do you think this book hammered for? So this sold in the last 2 weeks on Heritage. And don't go looking it up. That's cheating. But I told you the fair market value for this in Universal is $21,000. Last sale was 26. High watermark was 31. Yeah. But there was a sale of a 5.5 for only like 24 or 25s. That's the absolute most recent relevant sale. So Go Collect puts this at 21,000, which seems about right to me. Let's see, we're getting some guesses in. Rick Nestor's at 16K, Knights of Old at 20K. This is where we usually see 1 or 2 lurkers that just have to get a bid in, which is Blue Garland today. Welcome to the channel. Blue Garland at 17K, The Professor at 14, Collecting Chaos at 15, Pluck My Last Nerve at 10.5. A deal or a good price is the question. Yeah.
Can I make a quick comment too? So my brain, so I'm 34, and my brain still lives in like the year 2000 from when I was like 10 years old. So when I see a book like this, I'm like, oh, like about 60 years old, right? It's from the 40, and I'm like, nah. It's crazy that this book is about to be turning 84 years old, and for a book that's 84 years old that was supposed to be disposable, for it to have even creamed off-white pages to look this nice, for the reds to look this nice, crazy. This is a crazy, within 15 years, this will be 100 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just want to, I find that fascinating.
Actually, while people are putting their guesses in, let's think of this too. Let's comment on this. What do you think of the conservation job here? So I think that this was very well done. This cover does not look cleaned, in that it certainly doesn't look over cleaned. And I think this is a beautiful job. So I'm a fan of this book. I'm a fan of this conservator. Yeah.
Do you think that it's possible that this book was, or let me rephrase this. Do you think it's possible that the conservation on this book was done hoping to get a universal grade, or do you think it was specifically done knowing it will get a conserved grade?
I think it was done with knowledge, because remember the grader's notes say staples reinforced.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that means with Japanese paper.
Sure, but I guess I'm always a little skeptical when I see cover cleaned and it's only cover cleaned, or it's cover cleaned in one other thing.
I think that's fair. I'm just guessing, right? I think you're asking the right question for sure.
Yeah.
And could this have been universal? I think it could be universal. You unreinforce those staples and you take a bit of a hit. Maybe you go down to 4.0. I don't know. Maybe the cover cleaned can't be undone now. The other question we often have is, if the
know where you're
Rest
going
of the interior was cleaned. Would they
Exactly.
notice the cover being cleaned?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Hard to say. Very difficult to say, right? Let's go back to the guesses here. I think Plucked was the last one I did. So Morris is at 12.5, Hugo Danners at 13, Archivist Adrift at 17.654, Ben Stewart at 16.5, Jim at 14.750. Knights of Old says anything below 15K is a major deal. Jason, you're not old. Salesboy says 11. Gorilla Monkey 3000 says 14,750. Big Book, is it renowned enough to get the 75 to 80%? We'll find out very soon. Staples reinforced. The heckle does that mean? So it actually means paper around the staples reinforced. It doesn't
usually
mean,
just at the cover, because they'll
or centerfold.
They'll usually note like centerfold reinforced if it is
that's true.
specifically centerfold cover. But I have done enough work, maybe you too, Paul, to know sometimes they'll just say reinforced and they're not even specific on if it was the cover or how much of the interior. So sometimes it leaves a little bit to be interpreted.
Sure.
I'll just say, just for my own guess, Professor, hey, I'm in your boat. We're both. I was thinking about
14K.
That was my.
Ben Stewart says they should have picked up an $8 bottle of Evaporust. If only they had. No leaf casting, the small chip missing top right cover. You know, if you're going to get a conserved grade anyway, you may as well.
It makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, ready for the reveal?
That's what made me initially ask you that real quick, Paul, was when you see something about Maximize, but also it could have just been whoever did this has the skill set for reinforcement and for the washing, but leaf casting is something that's
the skill set or the budget. Maybe this was done,
correct.
You know, I could see somebody sending this to a professional conservator and just saying, I don't think the potential of a 5.5 by getting rid of that chip out.
Exactly.
I'm not
Maybe
even
it's
sure
already
you
maxed out
guarantee
for the
it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
And I don't want to spend the money and take the risk. All right,
exactly.
Here we go. 12.6 with the buyer's premium on Heritage in the last 10 days. This book sold for. I don't know who the winner is.
I think Maurice. It's funny. I almost.
Morris has got to. It's got to be the winner.
Conservation No Prize, which we salute you and say congratulations on it.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a pretty good deal. 60% of the universal value.
It fits in line with the what we typically see conserved books going for to the universal counterparts. So
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say, in fairness, I try not. I cherry pick cool books. I try not to cherry pick books that have sold for a huge percentage of universal. There were some other books that sold in the last 2 weeks that went for lower percentages of universal than this 60%. So I think the market is still trying to find the correct value for a conserved book. I don't think that.
Can I ask one question?
The market has figured that out yet. Yeah.
Were those books that you saw Silver Age books? Or were
there were a couple of Golden Age books that sold. Well, here's one thing, and we've pointed this out before. There was actually a Golden Age Timely that was a 9.0 conserved, and it sold for a fraction of what a 9.0 universal would have sold for. And again, just like with restored, there's price compression at the top. You know, if in the low grades, you might get a quarter of the value of a universal book when it's restored. But at the very top tier, sometimes it's 10%, you know. I mean, my copy of All-Star Comics number 8 is a restored 9.0. I paid 10% of what I would pay for that book, probably, maybe even less than what I would have paid for that book if it was universal, right? So that was one of them. Silver Age is funny because we just featured that a Silver Age book 2 weeks ago that went for 67%. But I do think in general, conserved, just because of the volume of Silver Age books that are out there, people are like,
I can wait and get another copy.
I can wait.
Maybe
Yeah,
for
there's
Golden Age, it's
there's I can find a universal, or I'll downgrade to a lower grade, but I'll get a universal book, and there's lots of them out there. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I thought that was fun. Welcome, Kilted Corgi. I don't recall seeing your name here before. Glad to have you on the show. So Phil, you have a segment for us, and I'm excited about it.
You know what's
right up
funny?
my alley.
Oh, nice. I figured it was actually. I know how you like your well, I guess no secret now. And you love your DC books, and this is one of those early DC books. And so, full disclosure, I thought I'd already shown this. I was going through my list of all the books I've shown in all the prior episodes that we've done here, and it kind of made me excited because it made me realize, oh, I didn't show that one yet. Ooh, I haven't shown that one yet, and I haven't. So this one I did back in 2022, so it's been like 2.5 years, maybe almost 3 years. And I got reminded of it because just as a quick note, I have this awesome local client who lives here in Manhattan who buys books almost exclusively like this, that, as we'll find out, have totally split covers, split and attached covers. He doesn't like submitting his books to CGC, and he always has great taste in Golden Age books, in my opinion. So I got a group of from him last week, and it made me think, oh, what have I worked on for him in the past? And this got brought up, and I was like, oh, this is a good one to show, just as an older example of work that I've done. So
yeah, so I forget exactly how many, but actually, let me see if I can find it. I feel like the Spectre only has like maybe 10 Golden Age covers for more fun.
Not many.
It's not a huge number, right? And Dr. Fate doesn't have that many either. Actually, I think this is a Bernard Bailey cover, right?
Yep.
And let's see. I'm looking. I think I made some notes on this. Give me just a second. I'll see if I can find it.
Hey, if I could just make just a quick comment. One,
yeah, of
and
course.
We've mentioned this before, but thank you to everyone that is watching this live right now and that watches it later. When we started doing this, it was just to have fun, to talk about conservation in books. And, we have a little bit of some people that tune in, and it's we're nothing without you. We're just a couple of guys talking about books by ourselves. So thank you so much for taking the time to tune in live and later. And we don't do it often, but if you could give a thumbs up to the video, it really helps it kind of spread in the algorithm for more people to see. Hey, if you think we're jerks and you want to give us a thumb down, we appreciate the honesty and do that too. But we hope that you get something good out of this and you want to give us a thumbs up. And if you don't, do it now. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it in my notes, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot. He was featured from More Fun 52 all the way through More Fun 101. And then, of course, when they added Superboy to the title, he got dropped. But he's really only on about a dozen covers, and they're just some of the most phenomenal Golden Age covers. So, yeah,
you got a few yourself.
I have. Yes, I'm fortunate to have a few of them. In fact, I want to do a new segment, and I want to feature a More Fun issue in a new segment coming up. So I'll tease it. I haven't actually even talked to you and Larry about it yet, but I have an idea for a new segment that could be a recurring segment, and I want to kick it off actually with an issue of More Fun. It's not a Spectre cover though; it's a Dr. Fate cover, which are my second favorite. I'll put them at second favorite More Fun cover subject. 14. Yeah, 14. I said about a dozen. 14. And Spectre has a similar number. I'm sorry, the Dr. Fate has a similar number.
Yep.
Fire away, Phil.
All righty, let's jump right into this classic conservation treatment on this More Fun 59. So I usually just show pictures, but I'm trying to be a little bit more, involved and give a little information too, just to not make assumptions. So we know this book, me and Paul know this book, but some of the viewers may not know it specifically. So it's published by DC in September of 1940, making this coming up on 85 years old. So no joke. Only a year older really than that cap that we just saw. It's got stories inside by Gardner Fox and Jerry Siegel, Superman fame there. And inside it's got some interior art and the cover by renowned artist Bernard Bailey, who's known really for the Spectre covers that he did in the Golden Age, but then a lot of his pre-code horror covers that he did within the next decade. So he's one of the big names.
This is super early days, right? The DC universe, in terms of number of heroes that existed, is still a very small number, right? You got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman isn't there yet, right? Like, Dr. Fate is one of the very earliest superheroes in the Golden Age. And obviously,
then also,
this is pre-war. So it's a relatively small universe in terms of this is also before any of the superheroes acknowledge the existence of any of the others, right? So there's no team ups. There's certainly no team. This is really early days.
No. You made some good points there. And then I just for relative scarcity too, I do just want to include, and again, this is just take it with a grain of salt. Not all copies of this are graded, but a good amount are, and by CGC. So currently on the census, there's only 52 total copies of this graded. That's not, you can find copies, but this isn't a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 1 with thousands of copies graded. This is a different case entirely.
Absolutely. Let's highlight a few of these stats. I think they're fun. I don't know if anybody else does. So Knights of Old dug this up for us. 14 Spectre covers, only 11 Dr. Fate covers. So that would just be great to just seek out those 25 covers, right? Like, for me, if that's all I had of more fun, I would die happy, right? Because there's some insanely good, I mean, just some of the best Golden Age covers out there. And a lot of them are Bernard Bailey. Knights of Old also says only 6 cool full mask Dr. Fate covers. Hey, I'll take them both. I'm not discriminatory, but the full mask is the coolest. Go ahead.
That's cool. All right. So, and then just one note about this copy, and I mentioned it before, but this copy had a split and detached cover with tears, stains. It was dirty, never pressed, and more specifically too, the biggest defect, it had to chew through the entire bottom left of the entire book. So a little bit more prominently there. It definitely could have been worse. You can imagine looking at the back cover there could be a far more paper missing, and I'll show a more detailed close-up where you can see
it's almost all there, right? I mean, that's the most important thing, is there's very little of it missing, and what is missing is on the back cover, right?
Yeah, or just within the margin of the margin of the interior pages. So it's not like there's any story pieces missing, really. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a significant defect, but man, when you look at this book and it's got problems, it certainly still retains a lot of eye appeal. And that's what we like to see, and what my client, saw the potential in this book, getting it, knowing, hey, I'm going to get some work done on this, because he's one of the people that likes to flip through his books. And as this book sat here, there wasn't really flipping through it unless you wanted to start causing unnecessary damage.
Sure. While you transition to the next slide, Ben Stewart said, did we like Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of Dr. Fate? I did. I wanted a bigger role, and I wanted him to be facing a bigger, he's so powerful. You have to come at him with something really huge in general, I think. Sort of like one of the issues you have with Superman, right? Like, but go ahead.
Okay, so here's a more of a close-up. You can kind of see what I was talking about there. Whatever the bug or mouse or whatever it was that was chewing on that really kind of hit the whole corner of this.
Looks like rodent chew.
But what they
Oh, I
did
could see
get-
it. Yeah, it could be something else though. Yeah, it could be bugs.
I specifically just said chew because sometimes I think if I really looked at it microscopically, you should say, oh, this is how bugs eat it. This is how it probably was bugs, kind of seeing how. But whatever, that's
Sure.
kind of
Yeah.
not totally clear. But what I was gonna say was what the bugs didn't get, or whatever it was that really cool signature in that
Mhm.
file they gave. That's one of those things that's so cool to me because these artists that were paid for the work, oftentimes like these were not oftentimes at the time these were not respected artists. This was viewed as crude. It wasn't, and so Bernard Bailey did this cover having a lot of respect for his own work, and he hid his name in there being like, I can do this and get away because I'm the artist, and this is for all time. People know that Bernard Bailey drew this cover. And that's such a cool thing. I love it.
Super important. Yeah. On the interior in this era, creators were not credited. There's no credits on the stories on the interior that say, written by or drawn by.
And most famously, as much as of a fan of early Batman as I am, like, Bob Kane was a glaring example of someone that kind of took it upon himself to exploit that, because he was able to just, with DC and his legal contract with them, Bob Kane's signature was at the bottom of every drawing of Batman, but that didn't mean he drew it. He had a ton of ghost artists, and all those guys initially didn't really get the credit, but over time people were able to look through and say, hey, this is a trademark of this guy that was drawing it. This is a trademark. So we can go back now and look, but at the time, those artists were just paid the bill, and they didn't get any respect, really. Bob Kane was like, this is mine.
Yeah, literally takes forensically looking at the art to figure that sort of stuff out. I did see somebody, speaking of, there was a piece of original art that sold recently for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the original artist reposted it and made the comment like, I was paid $200 to do this.
I wonder if they're salty.
I mean, it sort of felt like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Understand.
It's the reality of being an artist.
Yeah. Hey, it's so different now.
Less true today, certainly. Much less true today. Although
Yeah,
still the majority of artists are working for peanuts today too. But
there is also just for those, I'll just make this quick note just because I think it's kind of remarkable in today's world. I collect a lot of original art. I got pieces framed on my wall and everything. And for those not in the know, Nick Dragotta, who's the current artist on Absolute Batman, his art rep, Felix Comic Art, is one of those guys who's like making that respect in the name for the artist. So Ryan Otley of Invincibles under him too. And I mean, they were getting like 6 figures for the art to the first few issues, like for all of the issues before it was even coming out. So that is such a stark contrast from these guys back in the day getting paid $5 to draw the cover and then being like, okay, cool, thanks.
And there's so true. There's a huge recency bias to it as well. Like if you sell it when the book is fresh, you tend to get a lot more money for the art. In the Magic the Gathering world, this is also true, where pieces from the current set go for so much money now that a lot of artists that were working fully digital have come back to real media. So that they can pick up another 5 to 10 grand. And in some cases, if the piece that they got commissioned to do becomes the card, even like 50 grand. So yeah, absolutely. It's a different world. I did win that auction, by the way. Thank you for those of you that were rooting for me. It was right at my cap, but I'm very happy to pay my cap. Yeah, thank you. I'll show it off later.
I was going to say, I'm sure you'll reveal it at a later time. So looking forward to seeing what that is. Here's just a full interior front and back shot. After I'd really just taken the front and back covers off of the book again, they were split and detached. Thankfully, some kid didn't reattach them with tape or anything, making this job even more complicated. But also, just looking at the comments, just to make a note of this is one of those instances where if you were to one, I did this years ago, so this is before I was doing any leaf casting myself. But then there's also still the consideration where even today, where more people are leaf casting, and you see a book like this, and someone in the comments mentioned too that a 7.0 right now is for sale, a Universal for 7,000 on eBay. It would make you think this book in this grade, unless it's very sentimental or the owner got it for very little, likely the cost might be prohibitive to do leaf casting on this. So, and this client is someone who understands kind of part of the nuance of it. And again, putting to the side that I wasn't doing it, this was very much a case of trying to kind of keep it within budget. And I'll explain that as I show some of the later stuff. But this was a case where there's still an answer sometimes to be able to do enough work to get a book back together so someone can handle it without it falling apart, and it still makes sense to have done. So
absolutely. I mean, I could leaf cast this book if it was mine, but I wouldn't. Right? I could do the work for free without hiring somebody, right? And I wouldn't, though.
Yeah.
I probably would deacidify the whole thing, though. But that's a separate conversation.
Yeah. I think now, actually, I probably would deacidify those too for the client, especially knowing that they have more of a purist mindset where they aren't bothered so much by CGC and they do like the preservation aspect. So I guess really, as long as it's not cost prohibitive, then it would make more sense here too to maybe lessen some of the stains on the front cover and that back cover area.
Yeah.
So as it was though, this was just a case of just really resealing the spine and doing traditional piece fill at the bottom there and that large piece missing, and then I'll show some other kind of minor piece fills on the interior and what I figured to be a good solution for this book while keeping it in budget. So
yeah,
I don't.
Nice.
I wish I had more comprehensive photos. At least I have these, but I was a little bummed I didn't have more photos of this. So I don't have a photo of it with the covers open like this of the after, but I do have the inside cover. So this is, it kind of details the staining a little bit more. It also shows too, you can see how you still can do, again, if CGC is not an issue, you can do traditional mending tissue layering like I did in that whole bottom there and make a very cohesive, sympathetic color match where, you know, looking in that after there, your eye might not even think, oh, there's a big piece missing. It all looks relatively like the same color, which is what I was going for.
Yeah, beautiful. Really beautiful. And what a nice patina to this paper as well.
It's cool seeing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really tanning. It is just.
No, the color's beautiful.
Yep.
It's a beautiful color. I wouldn't want to whiten this.
No.
I mean, if it got lightened a little bit during deacidification, fine, but I would not actively whiten that.
Yeah. So here's
nice
the transition, right? So, and then I'll show how I kind of, this is a trick almost. I wanted to get it to look like this, but again, without doing a piece fill on 16 interior pages. So, because that starts to add up. And now it's one of those things where it was like, how can I kind of get away with doing this without doing that? And then also kind of making it chunky because you start mending tissue on every page and then you don't want to have it be too thick. So what I was able to kind of do, I'm just going to fast forward and then come back. Actually, I think I can show it here. So actually, this is the picture I really should have put before. So this is like page 4 or somewhere around there. And what I did was, I think the first couple pages, I added just one layer of Tengujo, just to have something there that wasn't crazy stiff, but gave it some strength. And then I skipped 1 or 2 pages and then did another one. And then I skipped 1 or 2 pages and did another one. And then did one at the centerfold and then flipped that. So
I see.
I kind of alternated a little bit. That way I didn't have to hit every page. But for all intents and purposes, once it was back together, it looked like that. And it was going to stay together with the surrounding pages supporting the one that I didn't add that piece to.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
This was just kind of showing sorry, forgive me. It's not raking light, incident light. just to kind of show. I don't have a before picture showing, but this was a heavily creased cover. So
Beautiful.
Kind of nice to just
What
to
a
see
book.
everything back in shape and back
And a
together now.
transformation. Yeah.
Thanks.
Wow. I'd be thrilled to own that book in that condition.
So here's I'll
Beautiful.
skip forward. So here's the Nitty before and after front and back cover. So I was able to you can see on the F and Fun it was mostly a lap tear, so really a lot of that color was hiding underneath the paper that- but not all of it, but enough where at least it's not a glaring
Very
piece of color
unobtrusive.
missing.
Yeah, an unobtrusive sort of repair.
Yeah. The only thing that I would do now, I think looking back, I think this was when I just kind of started to clean the colored areas too. Because I do notice that I feel like to go full circle back to the question someone asked, how long does it take to become a proficient conservator? It all depends on your standards. That's the answer to the question, because you can watch videos, you can do conservation on one book, tear seals, mending, reinforcement, submit your 4th book to CGC and get a conserved grade and say, I'm proficient. But then maybe you work on a book a year later and you look at it and say, hey, why didn't I do this on books a year ago? And then you're like, I don't think my work a year ago was good. This is proficient now. And then maybe a year later, you'll say the same thing. So it's a constant evolution. And I look at books I worked on early on and realized I was scared to dry clean the color areas. And then when I saw Kenny Sanderson doing it on Instagram, this would have been years ago now. And I was like, hey, there is a safe way to do this.
Yeah.
And I probably would have cleaned this up a little bit more than it is now, but all in all, I'm pretty happy. And
You cleaned it up quite a bit. I mean, look at the yellow underneath the lamp, immediately under the lamp, right? I mean, that's a lot brighter. The yellow banner across the top is brighter. And I think
the orange is still a little dirty, but
I think you did a great job. Yeah. I hear you though. I look at some of my early work and I cringe a little bit just because I know how much better a job I could do today. Slight spine roll you corrected here as well.
Yeah, I didn't I guess it's a little
It might be more just the alignment of the loose leaves.
So part of it here is the spine roll on the interior is masked on the before picture because that cover is just sitting over it.
Just sitting there,
actually lined up.
Actually, probably there is no real spine roll. It was just the cover, the loose front and back, giving the appearance of potentially.
Yeah, there was it like
a little bit. Yeah, a little spine roll here.
Sometimes it's that like top half of the roll, but it doesn't really correspond with the bottom. So it was very subtle. Very subtle.
What a great early book. People don't realize how early More Fun is. I mean, More Fun is in 59 issues. I mean, More Fun goes back further than Action, right?
Yeah.
It's even though it's on issue 59, this is like really early.
Yeah, exactly. Because some of those first issues of More Fun you don't see because they are like larger than magazine size.
They're tabloid. Yeah, they're huge, right?
And they're in awful condition because storage of comics even was tough before bags and boards, let alone something like that the whole top edge is always going to get chipped.
It's the size of a magazine of a newspaper.
Yeah. One thing I do want to notice, and I as a human being, I always look at my maybe the work came out good, but I'm like, all I see is that mistake I made. It's all I see, So when I first finished this, all I could see was that gap on the front cover on that right, where it lines up with the interior, and how it really should have been pushed over about a 1/16 of an inch, because when I reinserted the staples, I inserted them about a 1/16 of an inch to the left instead of to the right. And that's how you get that, because if you look at the back, it's totally flush. So really it's because of how I reinserted the staples.
You would have liked that split perfectly in terms of
negligible, really. Like, it's not something you get deducted, but it is something where I see it. I'm like, it could have technically been better. And it's
we're perfectionists. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful job, though. Bravo.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations to the owner of this book. on such a beautiful addition to the collection.
It's still in his collection, as far as I know. He's one of those
That's so
private
cool.
black hole collectors. Yeah. So
that's
thanks for
so
the kind words, and thanks everyone for looking. It was just a kind of an older book that came through my hands.
Yeah, I am fortunate to have a few more funds, a couple of those Dr. Fate covers, a couple of those one really big one actually. And in fact, I will show that in an upcoming episode too, because it's part of my idea for a new ongoing segment. Yeah, a lot of comments about the house ad, and I noticed that house ad for Detective showed the really early version of Batman, where the way he was rendered really only for the first 3 issues or so. Right there, right?
With the way his cowl comes up.
I mean, he was not rendered that way for very long. Again, this just shows you how early days this is. Sandman wasn't getting cover features very early into the Golden Age either. By wartime, he was done with his cover features, as was the Spectre, more or less. So, very early days, yeah. And All American, that's got to be also one of the first. That's just a month or two after Green Lantern's first appearance, I would guess. Not having it all memorized, but
I think that was in the spring, so yeah, that makes sense.
Wow. Well, folks, that's what we have for you for the show today. Really appreciate everybody joining us, taking a moment away from their family and visiting us on this day, which many people celebrate for all kinds of reasons. Glad to see you, Phil. It's nice to hang out.
It's nice to see you too.
I missed you guys last week, and so I'm glad to be here this week. And let's thank again.
Sorry, but I thought the same thing. Probably my most quoted line from the Goonies is that Ruth line from Sloth. Yeah, I mean, hits me in the nostalgic feels.
Let's thank again for this episode. If you're watching it live without ads, it is thanks to Archivist Adrift, Don Carter, and Salesboy Comics. Next episode is going to be brought to you by Collecting Chaos and Salesboy Comics again, and we really appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody. Until next time, take care of one another.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.